Put on your big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar, as the prophecy was foretold. I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And I'm Broadcaster Nickels.
And today, we are going to be talking about a little thing called Battle Royale 7.0? I think we're at 7.0. You tell me, Broadcaster Nickels, are we at 7.0? Answer now!
11.0.
God damn it, I knew I was behind. Yeah, Warzone. You've been playing a lot of Warzone, haven't you?
Can't confirm nor deny.
And what do you think?
But it is very good.
Yeah?
It is very good.
So do you, when we first started, I was very much still in favor of Blackout, and I've slowly went the other way with me as I've played it more. How about you?
Yeah, I think it's better than Blackout in pretty much every single way. The only thing, and I think you touched on it almost immediately, was like, it's just, Blackout had this really cool RPG aspect going with it, or with its loot, I should say.
Yeah.
You know, you got that chest. Sometimes it was just bunk. Sometimes it was just fucking the perfect roll. You were just like, yes. But now with Warzone, they lost that. It's totally gone. But you do get those moments with other elements of Warzone instead. You know, where a good example is the loadout chest. So now, instead of just getting that random aspect and finding the attachments you want, they put it in your hands. They're like, no, dude, go play multiplayer or just play Warzone if you just have the free-to-play version of Call of Duty, and level up those guns as you play more and more, and you get to equip the attachments you want on your guns, and you get to build your loadout. So it's almost this chase for loadouts instead of a chase for the perfect chest. You know, so it's there in one aspect, but it's just not the same, and it never will. You know, but
for sure. I was surprised how different it was from Blackout. It seems like it has more in common with Apex and Blackout, which, being that Blackout is another Call of Duty, you would not expect that.
It does have I'd say it does. The only thing that's different to me is that it's gunplay. Guns are firing completely different. I suck at Apex. That's why I never really got used to it and picked it up, because I just couldn't wrap my head around how the guns fired with recoil. I never could make a fucking shot. I didn't like the game.
Yeah, same here. Apex was a total dud, and the hype over it was so manufactured feeling.
It did. I think it felt manufactured just because, and I would suspect it actually was, just because it came out of nowhere.
It did.
You know,
it really did.
And it had such momentum out of nowhere. You have to pay for that type of momentum. There's no way you can just be like, oh yeah, we got this Battle Royale, and then everyone's just like, fucking, okay, cool, let me do a 2-hour Twitch live stream of the premiere. Like, that just doesn't happen. All right?
Yeah. I believe the coolest thing about Apex was just the music when you're coming down from the ship in the sky, and the dinosaurs that just roamed around the island. Like, literally, those are my two favorite things about the game, so that kind of tells you where I'm at with Apex Legends.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the last thing I'd say about that game in particular is just it had some elements of Titanfall in it that drew me to it initially, and then I left.
They're so loose, though.
Yeah.
So
that was the only thing that intrigued me, though. I was like, oh, this game's based off assets from Titanfall? Okay, you got my attention.
Yeah, and I still believe that if they would have made an actual Titanfall Battle Royale with Titans instead of the pilots, I think it could have been big, and it could have been like a game changer, but they just pussed out and went with the easy, obvious route.
Yeah.
But
yeah, back to Warzone, though, it's definitely best battle royale in my opinion out there right now. I'm really interested to see how it Fortnite and PUBG and is there any others that I'm forgetting will be affected by?
No, yeah,
I think that's it. Those are the Titans, right?
Yeah, those are like the big
Blackout's
ones.
gone. That's pretty much just faded with Warzone coming out.
It's not on console. People are still playing it today on console. You get instant queues still.
Really? Today?
Yep, today.
Why would people be playing? Out. Really?
Well, I mean, it's probably just a lot of, the PS4s, it has a lot of broke people who play it, So like with PC gamers.
Warzone's free though.
PC gamers are, I guess that's true. But I think it still holds because there's the sunken cost fallacy that you deal with these types of games, where there is a huge amount of people on PS4 that have been playing Blackout for a very long time, and they have it licked. They have the map licked. They have every aspect of it licked, and to them, it's become like this coliseum with Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix up in the rafters giving the thumbs up or thumbs down. And when they hear about Warzone, even if it is technically better, I don't think those people are going to jump to it that quick, because to them, it's almost like it's a competitor to their game. And that's one thing with Battle Royales that I have come to realize, is that it's become sort of like the console wars of the 90s. You take a side. You're an Apex player, or you're a Fortnite player, or you're a Blackout player, or you're a Warzone player, etc. Like, they're all like a tribe now, I think.
Absolutely. For sure.
And on the console, the tribe is strong with Blackout. PC, you're right. It fucking vanished into the wind.
It was crazy how fast it started to go. I mean, this is give you an idea of how fickle PC people are, to be honest. Today, or no, it was yesterday. I think you were in the party with me in Warzone. You started firing back at them, but they were talking about how the player base was already diminishing, quote unquote, to them. And I kind of just chuckled, because I'm just like, really? Is he? I actually wondered if he was telling the truth. Maybe there's some merit to that, but I was like, are there really people dropping off of this game already? Like, why? It's a great game. It's free.
Yeah. And the free aspect is really interesting, because to me, that makes it seem like Activision as a publisher has decided that Modern Warfare is going to carry the moniker of the Battle Royale. And it makes no sense to have a competitor under your own umbrella. So to me, Warzone being free to play and persistent beyond this iteration of Modern Warfare means that Treyarch's probably been told you're not allowed to do Battle Royale anymore, and that Blackout's going to be a one and done. What do you think?
It's hard to say, I think all these things are on the whim of success. It's all a matter of numbers. No matter how we perceive it, Warzone's going to have to make a certain amount of money to keep it in the hands of Infinity Ward. And that's it, period. I mean, we could always theorize on what Activision will really do just based on the actions we see them take. But behind the scenes, it's purely monetary. I mean, so we have to see how well Warzone does. And then I would base to see where Battle Royale will permanently go, because we have seen one iteration with Blackout, and me and you both played the shit out of it. It's really well done. The only thing in my eyes that it really lacked was players on the PC, and I don't know what they could have really done to save that, to be honest. I think that was more and more I'm starting to think that's just the nature of PC players, is there's just such a huge vast ocean of games out there for PC players to play. So they don't waste their time on things they're starting to get bored with easily.
Yeah.
And, that might just be it. But nonetheless, Blackout was a knockout for me, and Warzone is just an even bigger knockout as more and more I play it. So I don't know, with that being said, why Treyarch would not deserve to get another chance. They ushered it in, and then they just get it ripped out of their hands because Infinity Ward was up next to make another Call of Duty. That doesn't really seem fair, even if it was a success, So maybe it's just going to trade off every year. Maybe that's a way to keep our Battle Royale fresh. In Activision's case, just make another version every year with the new Call of Duty. And if they don't like that one, there's always the old one to fall back on, And that's actually pretty smart, because to this day, like you said, there's Blackout still going. So if for some reason Warzone just fucking bailed on launch day, they still had fucking Blackout going.
Yeah, well, I think Warzone is doing phenomenally right now. I haven't seen a whole lot of data, but the little I have seen points to, I think, double the peak users of Apex Legends on their opening weekend.
That's awesome. I love it.
And Apex Legends, they set records with that. Like, that's why the hype was so real continuing past the first, couple days it was out, because these numbers came out in the media and everyone's like, wait a second, how many people are playing this? Maybe I should check it out. But I think it kind of fizzled when a lot of people saw the real guts of the game. Because once you get, I remember what happened with me with Apex. I was trying to gut it out and I kept going with it for a couple, like maybe 2 weeks. And I got my first win maybe like 10 days in. And the win felt so empty. I did not enjoy it at all. And I just sat there thinking, dude, if this is the best feeling I can get from this game, I'm not playing this game anymore. And that is when I quit. I quit after my first win.
Yeah, for sure. That's why Blackout and now Warzone feel so good. Dude, I start sweating when I get down to the top 5. Like literally start sweating. It's very tense,
Yeah. The final couple of collapses actually feels a lot more dangerous in Warzone. And that's one thing I like about it as opposed to Blackout. Blackout, I almost got more calm in the last couple of, so the final with Blackout, I'm going to say the final collapse was super nerve-wracking. But the two before it almost felt kind of calm, like everyone's kind of in their set position, not going to be a whole lot of movement. We're all just kind of waiting for like the one idiot that does something stupid that we kill. This one, like the last 3 feel super dangerous. And like you said, like I get a little sweaty in all of them, not just the last one.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they actually nerf it, though, because it's so drastically different. Yeah. Because in Blackout, you could like dive into the shield and almost use it as a play. They don't expect you coming out of the shield on the other side of the building or the bubble, almost. I should say. But on Warzone, fucking you can't play that. You go into that gas, especially without a gas mask, you're fucking dead.
Yeah, and Outlander was so much more powerful than the gas mask. The gas mask works for like 5 seconds. Like
it's interesting to see how little the gas mask actually works. I wouldn't be surprised to see if that gets buffed.
It should, and it should be more common too. Like, why is that a legendary item? That should just be as common as armor. Maybe add grades, like a level 1 gas mask, level 2, level 3, because I feel like that's one spot of this game where a lot of it's really deep. There's a lot of deep aspects to this mode. That's not one of them. The gas mask feels very shallow and kind of underpowered.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity to expand on RPG elements that Blackout had, because the gas mask and armor plates and I don't know if there's really anything else I'm missing, but those are things you can't equip in your loadout. Things that you don't level up, things that you don't earn outside of Warzone that you can take advantage of. You have to find them on the map. So anything that they evolve or add in that way, I take as a plus.
Yeah. And so far it seems like all of the plans they have for the future are good plans. Like they're going to add solo and duo and 5-man instead of quads, which I think is brilliant. I really want to try the 5-man version because I've never played a Battle Royale with a team that big before. And I could imagine if you had a really coordinated team, it could be really fun.
Yeah, I'm just really stoked to see how all the modes play, especially just coming from a Blackout PC player, because I saw how each mode was ushered in and it just, some fell absolutely flat and never came out again. Some ruined the game by taking way too much attention away from other modes, like that. So
yeah.
I'm interested to see how those go.
Well, the good news is with cross-play on this one, the community will never die. Like, we're never going to deal with Warzone not having
That's
queues.
A good point.
Yeah, so that's one, like, with Blackout, I told you, like, I think maybe 8 months in, I was like, dude, fuck this. Get rid of all of the modes except for the standards. I don't care how cool Hot Pursuit is or whatever mode. Fucking Alcatraz, they destroy the queue, and then you can only play specialty modes that only appeal to a small portion of the player base that's literally controlling what people are playing. It was so dumb. You could not get a standard mode in Blackout for like, what, the last year we played it?
Yeah, it was sad.
It was sad.
It was really sad. And especially because they even tried to band-aid it, by only doing a cycle of modes every week. And even when they did that, people still wouldn't play it, They had to always have Hot Pursuit or Alcatraz available. Yeah. It really took away from the game.
It did. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes they made, that and like the lack of crossplay. And that might have been politics. It might have been out of their control. I'm not sure, but either way, they were both really big mistakes and kind of nailed the coffin of the game way earlier than it should have.
Yeah. But, to switch back to Treyarch and whether they'll not get the Battle Royale, I hope they actually don't, to be honest. I hope that Warzone is a big enough success that maybe Modern Warfare is the Call of Duty that has the campaign and Battle Royale all the time. Every other year you get that. And then with Treyarch in their year, you get a full fleshed out zombie mode and maybe something new that we haven't thought of,
Gambit.
Something, whatever it may be. Because
hey, Guardian, get in my van.
One thing Black Ops really, really suffered from was it spread itself far too thin. Blackout launched very bare bones. Zombie mode launched very bare bones. And multiplayer launched very bare bones. They couldn't even make a campaign because they had so much going on already. So I hope they really do consider a layout like that, because it would really work. It also wouldn't take attention away, because if Warzone really ends up being the success, why fucking give Treyarch a chance? Be like, sorry, it's not you. It's just we don't want you to ruin our cash cow, and that totally fucking makes sense. Like, why would you want to?
And that's why I suspect that, I think you're going to get your wish. I don't think Treyarch's going to be allowed by Activision to make another Battle Royale. And I think if Activision was fair, they wouldn't have taken $1 billion from George Soros last week or whatever for Diablo 4 development. Okay, so Activision isn't fair. They follow the money, and they don't care where that money comes from, and that is clear. So
introducing a new primeval, George Soros.
So yeah, I think Warzone's got it. I think especially with how successful it seems to be, and of course it's free. That's such a cheat code for being successful. Blackout didn't have that. So yeah, I just don't believe it. I think Warzone is it now. I think that there's not going to be another Warzone. I think it's just going to be Warzone from now on, and it's just going to keep getting updated like Fortnite and like fucking PUBG. So yeah.
I hope so in some ways, but then other ways, like if the game, like, are they going to be able to add water mechanics, or is that too big?
Yeah.
Is that never going to happen? If that never happens, that's a shame. And I hope it doesn't stick around too long, because they should learn from these things and make babies with Blackout and Warzone. I want water mechanics.
You're right. It's a damn shame. It's probably the biggest So like if I were to rate the weaknesses, number 1 would be the loot system, and number 2 would be the lack of water mechanics, because the RPG elements are just something I dig, and maybe it doesn't bother some people, but that's one of the main draws I have with video games. And most of the video games I play have some RPG elements. This one doesn't, and then the water mechanics are just totally cut. And the most fun I had in Blackout were underwater sniper rifles around the lighthouse. When the final collapse would be on the lighthouse, it was pandemonium. You'd have like 6 snipers in 6 different locations underwater going after each other, with people up top like throwing grenades in the water and shit at you. It was incredible. It was really fun. It happened like maybe 5 times the entire time I played the game, but those 5 times it happened were some of the most fun I've had on my computer in years. And that's never gonna happen in Warzone. Period. So yeah, with me, I'm going to say Warzone. I like it a lot. It's grown on me as I've played it. I appreciate the style of Blackout, and I appreciate the substance of Warzone. That's how I would put it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You know, you saying bringing those things up reminds me that we actually own Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So me and you have actually played multiplayer. We've made some loadouts, or at least I have. I've actually put a lot of attention into my loadouts and have some really cool stuff I love to lean on. And Warzone in particular is free. So when you go for those loadout chests, people that just play the free-to-play game,
yep.
They don't, at least for the time being right now, for the first couple initial weeks, they don't get, those badass weapons that people have been building for the past couple months, So it's almost like almost a pay-to-win aspect. I wouldn't really go really far and wide to scream that out on the hills, but if you really do a deep cut, that is a kind of a power gain on that side.
It was. They straight up submarined a pay-to-win mechanic into their free-to-play game, but in a way where you cannot criticize it because technically speaking, Warzone is its own game, and it's really esoteric the way they kind of just did it in a way where people can't really complain that much. I mean, I'm sure some people will complain, but they have an excuse. Hey, we released Modern Warfare 8 months ago, guys. That's a different game. Warzone just came out. Sure, you get this fringe benefit if you have bought the game from 8 months ago, but they weren't released at the same time. And that's what really makes a buy-to-win mechanic or a pay-to-win mechanic is typically when they come out parallel. And this
right
didn't.
In your face,
yeah, so it is. It's like they use the Game Genie or the Game Shark to kind of submarine a pay-to-win mechanic without it actually being one. And it's kind of crazy brilliant on their part. Doing it.
Well, it's really just by seamlessly connecting a player base. While it seems like it's the same game, it's really two different games. But they're bringing the players from Call of Duty campaign and multiplayer, and just allowing them to be in Warzone with all these other people that just have Warzone. And so in a way, they've been playing Warzone for a long, long time. But even though it just came out. It's like they're more skilled. They have more attachments and loadout familiarity with the weapons. Like it's just they're just more well trained. Period.
Definitely. Well, yeah. So I'm gonna say that we're probably gonna be playing Warzone for a while. At first, I was thinking 6 months tops, but now I'm kind of flirting with a year. Maybe it's pretty good. It just depends on if anything better comes out, I guess. But for now, there's no other Battle Royale I'm going to even entertain playing because on PC, I have no choice. I can't play Blackout. You can't get a queue on PC. So that leaves, PUBG and Fortnite. And it's like, I ain't playing that shit.
Who would pay for PUBG now?
Oh, God.
Who would do that now?
That is a great
fucking
PUBG
question. Is going to be facing an existential crisis here soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, are you ready to get to our preview of Marvel Studios' Black Widow?
Aye.
Or should I say Walt Disney's?
What's that? You want more Crack Cellar? This is good. Join your lords on Twitter at The Crack Cellar and Facebook.com/The Crack Cellar.
Hey, you over there. Are you a straight-up Chad or a strong woman? Well, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and your favorite podcasting app. Or, if you're a straight-up beta cuck, find us on YouTube with the rest of the Cloud Chasers. And we're back with our preview of Marvel Studios' Black Widow. Broadcaster Nickels, please explain our heartfelt stance on this upcoming film.
Oh, well, I mean, anything my future ex-wife Scarlett does, I have to be interested in. She has my full attention. So
yes.
She should have your full attention as well.
Yes. Let it be clear that we are not fans of Black Widow. We are fans of Scarlett Johansson and her hot-ass sister. Wow.
I mean, her mom too. Mom's
Dude,
looking good too.
Mom looked really good Mom looked really good in The Mummy from 1998. So I'm gonna say that woman hit the genetic lottery, or she bathes in the blood of virgins. One of the two.
Oh, I'm swelling up.
We're not fans of Black Widow. Neither of us know anything about Black Widow outside the MCU movies. We've never read comics.
I have.
Okay, well, I haven't, and Nicholas is a nerd. So this is an origin story. How much do you know about this origin story, Broadcaster Nickels?
I know enough to know it's pretty much been cobbled together like the MCU is. It's all based on like two different main universes, the 616 universe and the Marvel Ultimate Universe, I think it's called. So, but the things I recognize is the Red Room. I don't think Taskmaster, and I might be mistaken on this because I haven't read a lot of Black Widow comics or stories, but I don't think Taskmaster has really much to do with the Red Room in Black Widow. But maybe I'm wrong. I think they're just using this as a way to get Taskmaster into the MCU. And it's really interesting because a lot of people theorized from a long time ago that Taskmaster was going to be Hawkeye. And it's actually starting to look a little bit more like it might be. Because you remember in the first Avengers when they're talking about, what was it? Some mission in Barcelona or some shit. I forget what it was, but they kept referencing it and they never really explained it. I think that's what this Black Widow mission is going to be.
Oh, interesting.
But we don't know.
Yeah. So you think the Taskmaster is Hawkeye?
Maybe.
Well, that's interesting.
All I know is he's fucking Kakashi right now, man.
Yeah.
You fucking do a move on him, he'll fucking bring it back on you 10 times.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I fucking love the actor who plays Hawkeye, and I don't like his character. I hate the character Hawkeye, but I love the guy who plays him. So I'm happy that the guy got another, movie just from this role, because I think the role sucks, but he does it great and he is fucking good. And it's funny you say that you think that is, with your insider knowledge, you think that Taskmaster might be Hawkeye, because I have none. I have no insider knowledge. And I thought the same fucking thing. And I wonder why now. Like, what was it that made that bell ring in my head? Because I don't have your comic book knowledge on this.
Well, again, none of this is based strictly on comics. There's elements from the comics they're cobbling together, but I don't believe this is based actually on a particular story.
Well, that's cool.
This is just a fresh Scarlet origin story. It's not really even an origin story. It's just really going back and kind of giving her some backstory, not really an origin story in a way.
Well, I find it interesting that they made her a Russian because, the whole Russia thing going on in the United States right now.
It was actually a really bold move.
Yeah, really it's like, I mean, let's face it. A good chunk of the fan base of the MCU are diehard SJWs, and right now they all fucking hate Russia. So you're putting your hero as a Russian with her family, who are apparently the Russian Avengers. Broadcaster Nickels, are there Russian Avengers in the comic books? Answer right now.
Yes, there are.
Fucking A, I knew it.
To switch over to DC Comics. I mean, the Russian themed variations of comics has been a very popular thing. There's actually a really cool Superman comic that is based on the idea that he landed in Russia instead of America.
Yeah, Red Sun, right?
Yep, Red Sun. Yeah, you've heard of it.
Yeah.
But anyways, jump back.
I almost downloaded it, but someone told me it sucked. Did you watch the movie? Is it good?
I had never watched the animation, but DC is really good with animations. I'd be surprised if it was any less.
Yeah, if the source material is good, I'm guessing that the movie's good, and I just got some jacked up opinions.
The source material is amazing.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Right,
they're probably just some cringy anti-Russian people. I don't know.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that must be it. You must be right. That's probably it.
To jump back to them actually going with Black Widow now, put the tinfoil hat on real quick. Black Widow was actually rumored to come out a long, long, long time ago. And, as high as quality, some people may argue about the quality and the overall presentation of some of these movies that come out. But in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinions, these movies are really well planned. They have Easter eggs, even from some of the shittier movies. They have Easter eggs that prelude things that happen years later, which really shows a lot of forethought, right?
Yeah.
So looking at Black Widow and the connection I kind of pointed out earlier about this mission that they referenced in Avengers and then in later movies, and they still to this day haven't done it, but yet it involves Black Widow and Hawkeye. And this movie is already officially supposed to be taking before the snap, which means it's obviously in the past. It's a perfect setup to explain that. And just the scenes where Taskmaster is introduced and shows there's room in there to put Hawkeye as the person. And if you remember, Hawkeye was under mind control. So maybe this involves Loki in some way.
Oh,
you
shit.
know, and he's still under mind control or something like that. Because Loki is messing with the timeline. Remember, he got the Tesseract or whatever at the end of Endgame, or was it Endgame? It was Endgame. So Loki's alive now. So that means maybe Loki's fucking with the time. I don't know. I'm going on a fucking weird direction right now, but there's a lot of room for a lot of things, and a lot of people are thinking that they're going to finally explain the mission. I feel stupid because I can't remember the actual name for it, because they always call it the location that it actually took place.
Yeah,
I want to say Barcelona, but I know that's fucking not right.
Well, it seems like it's Russia. It's whatever Russian city this takes place in that you see in all the trailers. Yeah, is what I'm guessing. But who knows? Maybe it is Barcelona. But
maybe I need to go on vacation to Barcelona.
Yeah, so there's a few things that look cool from the trailers. I watched all 3 trailers. I'm assuming you did as well, or at least 2 of them.
I've watched all 3 of them.
All 3? Okay. Yeah, so the trailers, there's one thing I got out of these trailers. Well, there's 2 things, really. First, there are a lot of varied locations in these trailers. It's not just all in like the same city or the same spot, like the whole movie. I saw like a bridge, nighttime bridge, a bunch of like snowy mountains, like a Hoth scene. There was a desert with, palm trees and a tropics beach area. And then there's, of course, the Russian city. It was really varied, and I wasn't expecting that out of a Black Widow movie. I was thinking it was going to be kind of low budget, and it is MCU. Nothing's low budget to them. But, I thought it was going to be the lowest budget they do. It was going to be on the very bottom end of what they do. And it seems like they went
she's
and
a
filmed.
white woman, right? Why would they give her a big budget?
Yeah, they went and filmed this in a lot of locations. These weren't CG green screens. Like, they filmed a lot of this movie in a lot of different locations.
MCU don't fuck around about that shit.
And the other thing that's weird about it, I kind of got some like Fast and Furious vibes and some James Bond vibes. I feel like they're trying to make this movie for the subsect of people that are kind of like on comic book movies, but they love Vin Diesel. You know what I mean? They love Daniel Craig. Because, so like in these trailers, I saw like 6 different car chases, motorcycle chases, all kinds of vehicular stuff. And then we have the Skyfall scene, straight out of the James Bond movie called Skyfall. It was incredible. It was the same fucking thing.
To my future ex-wife's defense, all right, a lot of directors have used this scene in their movies. This has become a popular trope to have these scenes.
God damn it.
Honestly, the first I remember it being used was Final Fantasy Advent Children, when Seth Ross started slicing up some buildings and shit. And I think that inspired a lot of people. I think that inspired a lot of fucking people. They saw that and they're like, that's fucking dope.
That's a great point. I need to rewatch Advent Children before FF7 Remake drops. Thank you for pointing that out, dude. I totally forgot about that.
I'm probably talking out my ass because there's probably a lot of anime enthusiasts out there that are just probably going to say that's nonsense. But I feel like Advent Children is one of those people. It's not underrated, but just forgotten about.
Oh, yeah.
It just came out in this weird time where it came out, people watched it, and they're like, that was dope. And then everyone kind of just We're like, all right, whatever.
They all went back to playing Halo 3 on their Xbox.
Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with that game.
But yeah, I like the Skyfall scene, but it felt really James Bondy, and there's just a lot of foreign elements in this movie just from the trailers that I've seen that I find very interesting. And another thing I find interesting is the casting of the Stranger Things cop as a Russian version of Captain America. Isn't that interesting? Like, you even see him throwing the shield in the trailer.
He's based on a character called Red Guardian, who's actually the Russian version of Captain America. He's the Russian super soldier program.
Yeah, and I have to say, I fucking love the casting. I don't like that guy very much as a person, but I think he's a great actor. And from what I've seen in these trailers, he is fucking awesome. So I'm very much on board with him being in this movie. Black Widow's mom, though, we need to talk about a little bit. So chronologically speaking, she might be 5 to 10 years older than Scarlett Johansson. We don't know for sure, right? You haven't looked this up?
No, but I know she's at least 10 years. I know there's
can't be at least. At most 10 years. Not at least. Come on.
Surprised. I think she's just aged really well.
Okay, well, let's just put it this way. When you're watching these trailers and you
Scarlett Johansson's like my age. Our age.
Right, yeah, she's like late. Yeah, she's a few years older than us probably, right? Like
mid-30s.
Well, she's probably my age. She's probably my age, but you're probably younger than her, I'm thinking.
Well, the other actress is she's
got to be in her late 40s.
She was that age when she was in The Mummy.
Yeah, exactly. And that was 1998. That was 20 years ago. So
exactly.
Here's the thing. Guys, MCU people that definitely don't listen to this podcast, I'm talking to you right now. Please do not cast hot-ass chicks the same age as the person that's supposed to be their daughter who is also a hot-ass chick. Okay, I get it. Hot moms have hot daughters. That's true.
Stand down. Stand down.
God
Belay
damn
that
it,
command.
Broadcaster Nickels.
Command.
They look like
I'm all for what is happening.
They look like they're the same fucking age. When she's like saying, "Hey, you sit up straight, little missy. You have bad posture." My eyes rolled so far the back of my head that my retina is almost detached. Are you give me a fucking break? That's bullshit. They cannot be mother and daughter. Impossible.
My eyes didn't roll up, but something definitely went up. That's for sure.
I love both the actresses, though, and I'm happy they're both in the movie, but I'm just going to tell you right now, if you want to break the fourth wall, do that shit.
Man, that would be super interesting when all this stuff kind of meshes together, you know? When are they finally going to pull the trigger on that? I feel like that's when this shit's going to collapse. It's going to be so messy when they finally try to do, what would you call it? Team-ups. Because that's what they're really ultimately going for, right? Like, they've been building these universes to get all these characters in there to be ultimately like the comics, but in cinematic form. And then eventually people are going to beg for these team-ups where Deadpool with, who knows, Captain America and Black Widow, who knows, just whatever it may be. And it's just going to, I feel like that's when these movies, exactly, that's when these movies are really just going to start falling super flat.
Yeah. Ooh, man. So
I just saw a dark future. I'm sorry, went off topic.
God damn it. I am so worried about the future of X-Men right now. It gives me heart palpitations whenever I think about what's about to happen to my beloved favorite comic book of all time. Disney.
Dude, Legion's keeping it strong.
Oh, dude, Legion is a fucking masterpiece, and fucking A, dude. I fucking love Legion so much, but Legion is a Noah Hawley flick and has nothing to do with Disney, and Disney is about to take over X-Men. And holy fuck am I worried about what they're going to do when they turn X-Men into some PG fluffy nonsense.
Who knows, man? I mean, they've had a kind of a hit and miss record. I still kind of believe in Kevin Feige, even though he's part of this world, this, get woke, go broke culture. He still has a somewhat good history in a rapport with this franchise. He's, whether you like it or not, responsible for some of the better movies that have come out. So I just hope that he doesn't allow the worst part of him to infect the franchise going forward. I hope like Black Panther 2, for instance, the fact that Chad Bronswick, I forget his name, but the fact that he might not be in Black Panther 2 is a bad sign. But then again, there's room for them to say, bring the actor from Legion into the MCU. How cool would that be?
That would sell a ticket to me immediately.
Because New Mutants that's coming out, right? It kind of has that Legion vibe.
Yeah.
It kind of,
it does a little
feels
bit
like it's in that universe. So
yeah.
How cool would it be for them to be like, yeah, that actually is part of the MCU?
Yeah. No, that would be sick. And yeah, I'm very interested in New Mutants. It's not that I think it's going to be great or I think it's going to be bad. I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be interesting. There's so much weirdness with this movie and like the people making it, the casting, the direction, and sort of it seems like it's this curveball, or at least it's supposed to be this curveball. And I'm very interested to see if it lands.
For sure.
But getting back to Black Widow, how much longer do you think Samuel L. is going to do Nick Fury? Because, man...
Is Samuel in this movie?
He is. He's in the trailer.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah, and it's like, I look at him and I'm like, yo, I mean, black don't crack. I see that, and it's cool. And you could keep playing Nick Fury for a while longer, but I can't believe he wants to play Nick Fury. You know what I mean? I totally get why fucking Disney is still giving him the checks, because Samuel L. fucking Jackson. But why the fuck does he want to keep doing Nick Fury? That dude is so rich. He's been in like 15 legendary movies in his career. He has absolutely nothing to prove, and he has everything to gain by saying, you know what? I'm going to go vacation in Cabo for the next 4 months instead of make this new fucking movie with Nick Fury in like 3 scenes.
Personally, I mean, I couldn't confirm, but I think he's actually a real fan of comics because his character is the most comically accurate other than, I'd say, Iron Man and, Captain America. There's a couple characters that they've done just really to the books that you really can't even complain about. Some characters have been totally changed, but nonetheless, back to Samuel L. Jackson and Nick Fury. He's actually based really accurately. And maybe he just is really a big fan of that. Maybe he sees himself actually as Nick Fury, because if I loved comics and I projected myself onto a character so accurately as himself with Nick Fury, and I was given the role he did, I'd never let it down. Like, fuck, man, I'm going to die going down as fucking Nick Fury, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Attention MCU, if you ever give Broadcaster Nickels the role of Moon Knight, he will never let that shit go. He'll be the 85-year-old Moon Knight.
No doubt about it. I'll do soap operas as fucking Stephen Grant, all right?
Yeah, so we touched on the fact that it has kind of like Fast and Furious, James Bond vibes, kind of like almost like it's trying to reach out to a new audience. And I think that kind of makes it feel a little bit grittier and maybe a little bit more adult than some of the typical Marvel movies. Like more in line with a DC movie, not as much like Shazam, because Shazam's basically a kids movie. But Joker and like the more dark DC movies, Dark Knight. What do you think about that? Do you think they're trying to kind of use this movie as like a Trojan horse to take some of those fans, or do you think I'm totally reading into the trailers wrong?
I mean, my gut tells me no. Because MCU is such a child-friendly brand that they're not going to even pretend to launch a kind of like sub-genre, darker, grittier movie set in the MCU, or even anything that dabbles in that. I just don't think they'll even put that idea out there. I think it's just the movie's idea and what it's based on. Just you can't stray away from those elements. It's part of the storyline, so it just has to come with it. But you are right, it definitely comes off as one of the darker sided MCU movies. They clearly have drinking, a dysfunctional family. They're all white, God forbid.
Yeah, it's funny.
There's some elements in there that just are really surprising that they're going with. But,
Totally.
they have had a bunch of movies that are super diverse. So, I mean, there shouldn't be any fucking room to begin with to complain about this type of shit. So, I mean,
when I saw Scarlett Johansson take a shot of vodka at the dinner table, I'm not going to lie, I got a half chub, That's just me, man. When I see a hot-ass chick take a shot of vodka on a movie screen funded by Disney and Mickey Mouse, I react.
I react strongly.
But so winding down on this preview, before we end things, I want to bring up one more weird aspect of this movie from the trailers, and that is the fact that in trailer number 2, Scarlett Johansson's hot Russian sister drops her accent in a random scene in the trailer. So she has this thick Russian accent, right, in every other scene leading up to this. And then it clips to this other scene where she starts talking to Scarlett. Total American accent. No ifs, ands, or buts. Obviously not Russian. And okay, I get that you can have some bad scenes where your imitation Russian accent doesn't work, but how did it get past the editors? How did they let this get into trailer number 2? She literally just talks with a normal American accent when she's been talking Russian every scene leading up to it.
Hey, man. The best of us slip from time to time when we're on our various espionage missions. All right?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard being a fucking international spy.
For this to happen, 8 people had to let it slip. So my brain tells me that it wasn't a slip because there's the odds of so many people dropping the ball and not seeing this are so low that my brain says, hey, this was done on purpose. She might not actually be Russian. They might be trying to foreshadow something.
Well, I was going to bring that up earlier when you were talking about how many various locations are being shot in the trailer, which makes you think that this movie's all over the place geographically. That brings me to 2 different paths in my mind, whether it's time differences. So in this movie, they're going to be jumping all over time-wise, like different years, and then they're going to jump back 5 years to show you something and then fast forward another 5 years to present day to kind of get you to where the scene first started or whatever. You know how movies do that. That's actually to foreshadow a little bit how Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, kind of starts out. So nonetheless, it could be something like that, or they're looking for something and they're going all over the world to look for something. So
your insider knowledge on whatever we're talking about right now doesn't give you an answer on this then? This is all guesswork.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, all guesswork.
Okay. All right. Well, I find that interesting. At the very least, it's interesting that either they made the biggest screw up of all time, or they're showing us that she might not actually be Russian. Or, like you said, maybe they're just showing her at a time different when maybe she was living in America and just picked up an American accent for a while, but then ended up moving back to Russia and picking up her old accent, which it seems kind of like a little bit of a reach, but I actually have met foreign people that came and visited the places where I lived, where they started to develop an American accent by the time they were there for a few months. And I'm sure once they went back to their home country, their regular accent probably came back. So
it happens to everybody. I mean, we do the same thing. I mean, sometimes it's even offensive to some people, but it's just natural. People try to adapt nuanced pieces of language to come off likable and relatable because everyone wants to wants to be wanted. They don't want to come off as a foreign body in the ecosystem. They want to adapt and be a part of the system.
Yeah,
and part of that is learning the nuances of the language, the slurs, if you will.
Yes. All right. Well, any other closing thoughts before we wrap up our preview on this movie? Any brilliant ideas?
Scarlett, I'm here waiting. Please consider just dumping whoever's in your life right now. I mean, you're probably not even dating right now, obviously, because you're waiting for someone like me to come along. But, consider this strong.
All right. So with our previews, we're going to either give a thumbs down, thumbs up, or thumbs sideways, just as Joaquin Phoenix would have done in Gladiator, to this thing we are previewing. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and give this a side thumb. I didn't think I was going to watch any more Marvel movies. I was actually pretty convinced I was done with Marvel movies until maybe Disney lost the license or something happened where the tone changed. But you convinced me to check out these previews, and I have to say the previews made my down thumb slightly crank back up to a side thumb. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to see the movie, and I'm going to hope that it lives up to the tone that is present in the trailers, which is definitely much better than some of the recent schlock that MCU has been delivering to us.
I'm definitely going to give it a thumbs up. I can't give a thumbs down to my future ex-wife.
Well, yeah.
And secondly, it generally looks like a fucking awesome movie.
Yeah, you're totally biased, though. I mean, you don't want to blow the chance that Scarlett Johansson's listening to this very podcast now, and because you gave it a side thumb, she will never date you.
I mean, I'll give Scarlett the side thumb. I mean, you should cut that out. Cut that out. Remove that from the broadcast.
And we're back with our review of SEGA's Sonic the Hedgehog, the film. And the creators of this film describe it as the following. Sonic tries to navigate the complexities of life on Earth with his newfound best friend, a human named Tom Wachowski. They must soon join forces to prevent the evil Dr. Robotnik from capturing Sonic and using his powers for world domination. Broadcaster Nickels, you have been slanderous and treasonous in which you have described this movie as a kid's movie. Defend yourself now.
Stand on the square. Now testify. First of all, it is a kid's movie, but it's a good kid's movie. There's a lot of I wouldn't say adult jokes. That makes it sound like it's not a kid's movie. There's jokes and subtleties in the movie that only adults nowadays would pick up on. People that were kids back when Sonic the Hedgehog was actually a video game. Like even to the very beginning of the movie when they talk about his actual home realm or planet, whatever you want to call his part of the universe with the loop-de-loops.
Well, let's remember that this is the non-spoiler section of our review, so let's be very vague with specific locations.
Anyways, from the beginning, middle, and end, there are hints to, things that only people that played the game back in the day would know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I clearly think it is not a kid's movie. But I'm going to leave that fight for the spoiler section of the podcast because I have ammunition and it is loaded with coronavirus. So, first of all...
It's a bioweapon.
SEGA makes movies? What? Since when does SEGA make movies? This is the first SEGA movie I've ever seen. It's the first SEGA movie I've ever heard of.
I think it is the first SEGA.
It must be, because where the fuck did they come from?
I mean, I honestly think it is the first SEGA. I don't honestly... we would have heard of this by now.
You would think. However, maybe something in Japan came out that we never saw. That could be a possibility. I don't know, though. I haven't researched it.
Those Japanese are wily sons of bitches.
Yeah. But, I mean, generally speaking, I thought this was a good movie. It was schlocky, but the good kind of schlocky. You know what I mean? Like, there's the type of schlock that makes you roll your eyes, and there's the type of schlock that makes you giggle. This was the latter,
For sure. I mean, it just, back to the elements that connected to the video games and only people that are old enough would get it. I don't think those particular elements are not kid friendly. Maybe that's not what you mean by it not being a kid movie, but I just the tame nature of the comedy overall in the movie and the storyline in general is very kid friendly. It's like Toy Story, it's a fucking furry alien hedgehog trying to figure out how it can be loved by humanity. Essentially, it's kind of like Toy Story, and like toys facing their existential crisis of just being these inanimate objects, but they still want the love from their kids, their owners.
Yeah, well, that's a very, very interesting comparison, Broadcaster Nickels, which I definitely disagree with, but I'll save that for later. What did you think about Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik in general?
Awesome.
Isn't he?
I thought it was probably the best role he's been in so long, man. It was good to see Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey again.
Oh, it was so nice. Yeah. I think it would. I'm a huge Jim Carrey fan. Like, to the point where, like, if you're going to go with my favorite comedians of all time, it's him and Chris Farley, essentially. Those are my two. Farley's dead, Carey's still alive, and he has produced some shit for the last 20 years. He has not been making good movies for a while. And in my opinion, this was easily his best performance in 20 years. And I think the last movie that was on par with this performance was Me, Myself, and Irene back from like 2000.
Yeah, I mean, comedy-wise, for sure.
No, just acting. Just pure acting. The thing about that movie is he played 3 different versions of himself, or maybe 2, I forget which, but either way, they were both super different, and he did so much weird, like, facial expression acting and eye acting, the type of shit he used to do in the Ace Ventura days and the Mask days, and that shit has been missing from Jim Carrey's repertoire for a very long time. This movie brings it back. Some of his eye acting in this movie totally was on par with some of his most classic shit.
For sure. That's what I meant by, like, when Carrey's kind of like back to being Carrey, his mannerisms came back, his little quirks and stuff, where he was known no matter what the movie was, you knew he was going to be, it's almost like typecasting in a way, but in a good way.
Oh, in a great way. Because
the greatest of ways.
If you think about, like, if just erase this movie from your mind and everything you know about it, and you just immediately are presented with this thing, it's like, who would play Dr. Robotnik in your head? You wouldn't really think Jim Carrey. Like, I'm not sure who I would think, but it wouldn't have been Jim Carrey right off the bat. But Jim Carrey, dude, in a fat suit, that would be interesting. But Jim Carrey nails this shit so hard, it goes out of the park and into the parking lot. How good he performs this role, and it's tough because Dr. Robotnik doesn't have a whole lot of source material to go off of. He's a villain of a SEGA game that had almost no story. So all the limited amount of background material you have, it's amazing how well he brought forth the attitude and the general persona of Dr. Robotnik, which makes me think Jim Carrey is a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, and that's how they got him in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, you might be onto something, but also Jim Carrey is like a top-notch actor, and when you give him a role, I imagine I'm not even an actor, and if someone was to tell me, how would you develop a live-action Dr. Robotnik or Eggman? It would be purely based off his aesthetic. His character's substance is in his aesthetic.
Right.
So it's like, I would just go off visually what I've been presented with over my childhood, He's just a crazy fat lab genius with a crazy mustache, and he has a very particular suit and glasses, and he flies around in this little drone hover thing. And that was also something really cool, They couldn't really go with the quirky nature of like the animals being possessed and stuff like that in Sonic the Hedgehog, but they really expanded on the idea that he was a drone expert, because in the video games, that's not really true. I mean, he has this like little drone apparatus, but he's more of just a robot master. But they really took the missing element of the animals and stuff like that and replaced it with his mastery of drones. And then they even took it a step further by referencing something we'll talk about probably later in the podcast, that brings him to his Japanese version name.
Mm-hmm.
So
that
was really cool.
It is really cool. And, we'll talk about that more later, but it's just, he carried the movie for the most part. Like, nearly every line he delivers is solid gold. How many lines in this movie did he have? Like, he probably had more than anyone other than Sonic, right? And, I guess maybe, fucking Donut Lord might have the,
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, is the fact that Sonic calls his friend Donut Lord. It's just so, like, I'm not even sure what it is, but I love it. And it makes me laugh every time. But maybe Donut Lord had slightly more lines than Jim Carrey as Robotnik, but very close. Like, they were probably number 2, and number 3 right behind Sonic. Yeah. And every single line, solid gold. It was so good. There was no scene where he didn't steal it. Every single scene he was in, he stole the scene.
Yeah, for sure. I loved the exchanges, by the way, between Robotnik and Donut Lord.
Yes, they were great.
That was some of the best comedy in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the overall
name's
tone.
Robotnik, but my dentist calls me Rob.
Yeah, exactly. I love the overall tone and humor of the movie. And you think it's a kid's movie, which we will debate more in the spoilers section. But I think that the tone and the humor of the movie doesn't make it a kid's movie. I think it's a kids of the 90s movie. It's targeting people our age that were kids when they played this game, but aren't anymore. But one thing I did really like as well is the fact that they redid Sonic's art. Do you know the story about this? So Sonic, they originally released a trailer with an old art for Sonic. Yes. So I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was an overreaction by the internet.
For sure. And I also thought it was going to ruin it too, because when I saw the overreaction and how much they bent the knee, I was just like, man, this just tells me this movie's crap and they're willing to do anything to make the perception of it better. But it turned out to be fucking, as we both agree, a knockout of the park.
Yeah, no, for sure. I liked the original version, and I would have been fine. I would have been totally fine if the original version stayed in the movie. But the second version that came based off of the feedback from the fans who panned the original version, for some reason, in the history of time, no movie studio has ever done this. These fuckers went back to the drawing board and redid Sonic's model after the reaction to the first trailer. And that, in one way, you can say, ooh, like what you thought. They're kowtowing real quick. Maybe this movie sucks and they just really want to get as many bucks as they can. Or they really care about their fans and they listen to feedback for the first time in goddamn history, which I think the latter is true. And it
ended up being very admirable in the end. I mean, they were like, well, this is our first movie and we don't want it to be crap. We want these people to ask us to do more movies. So, I mean, we got to do this right.
Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, I think that this is a pretty good movie and I'm going to give it a thumbs up for our listeners that have not seen it yet and are about to turn it off before we get to spoilers. I think that if you're a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, definitely watch this movie because you're going to love it, period. If you're not a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, it's probably more of a 50-50. So,
well, I mean, you could be, even if you're not a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, if you're a Jim Carrey fan.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're going to like it, even for Jim Carrey.
That's a great point. Yes, if you're a Jim Carrey fan, if you love Ace Ventura more than any other comedy, you're going to like Jim Carrey in this movie. I guarantee it. So that's a thumbs up from you, Broadcaster Nickels?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. All right, so that's double thumbs up. And with that, we will go into our spoilers section. And I will start that by saying that, man, Cyclops was a great Donut Lord. What do you think, Broadcaster Nickels?
I totally forgot he played Cyclops in fucking the X-Men Solid Snake wrote.
Yeah.
But, seeing Baby Sonic at the beginning was, I don't know, it was almost like this weird thing that my childhood wanted that I never knew, I saw him and I was just like, I almost wanted to shed a tear a little bit. I was just like, oh my God, it's totally on the screen.
Yeah. The intro did a very good job of hooking you instantly with the feels because anyone that grew up with Sonic and you start this movie seeing Baby Sonic just going nuts in Green Hills Zone, which was beautifully rendered in this movie. We gotta talk about the budget of this movie. I don't know what the budget was, but man, does everything in this movie look great. It is not a B movie at all. The movie has great effects, and it has great alien environments. And, we're going to talk about the Mushroom Planet more in the future, but I'm going to say eventually we see the Mushroom Planet, and it looks fucking amazing too. Like, they put serious money into a planet that's on the screen for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, just to further that point a little bit, I'm pretty sure Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is almost fully rendered as far as the CGI goes. Ooh. Some tells me that they are for surely doing Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and that Mushroom Planet, there's a lot of scenes with at least Sonic rendered in the planet already done.
Yeah.
At least on paper.
I think you nailed it on that one. So the ending, don't want to talk about it too much yet, but let's just say that the ending definitely tells you there is a sequel coming. Even if you're going to discount like what happens in the true ending before the credits roll, what happens in the post-credits scene basically cements it that there's already a sequel being worked on, because there's no reason they would have done any of that if there wasn't. Yeah.
And I really got to give them a round of applause on how much they're torpedoing the progression of the movie universe. Like, in one movie, they seamlessly brought in Sonic the Hedgehog, Dr. Robotnik, Tails at the very end, the Knuckles race at the very beginning. Like, it was very subtle, and a lot of people, maybe even people that played the game just even a little bit in their childhood, probably didn't pick up on that. But that race that was chasing him down at the beginning was the race Knuckles is.
Yep.
And so I just thought they really did a good job bringing in almost, at least I would say, a majority of the universe from the video games in just one movie. They foreshadowed the Mushroom Planet. They got Dr. Robotnik right. They got Tails right. They foreshadowed Knuckles. I don't know where that owl came from. Maybe my memory's failing me, but that owl seems like a made up thing.
I think the owl is from a newer Sonic that we haven't played. So for me, I played, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Sonic and Knuckles. But beyond that, I played Sonic 3D, the original Sonic 3D, which was hot garbage. And I think I played a few more after that, like one on the GameCube that was really bad. But it didn't transition to 3D. Sonic the Hedgehog, it did not transition to 3D well. But they kept making them. I'm pretty sure there's like 12 3D Sonics I've never played before. And my guess is that owl is from one of those.
That'd be funny. And that actually gets you to another point, is that it's surprising to see Sonic the Hedgehog even being a movie nowadays, because as a video game franchise,
I know,
it's not been successful. So for them to pick it as a CGI movie is interesting and makes you think, are they doing this purely just to get a movie franchise going?
Yeah.
Or is this to revitalize the game franchise as well?
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if Sonic will ever truly thrive in 3D. It's just a weird situation they're in. I've never played a good 3D Sonic. I know there are some people out there that will sing to the rooftops that there are a couple good 3D Sonics, and
there are. There's a couple on GameCube I liked, but yeah, go ahead.
I just don't like them. I haven't played any that I liked, and I played one of them that a bunch of people told me was good, and I still didn't like it. So I'm super skeptical about 3D Sonics.
I mean, it's a different game. That's just it.
Yep.
Sonic is like platformers. Even one can argue a 3D platformer is just a completely different game.
Yep.
Period. It's not. You can't just take the original Marios and then go to Mario 64 and say, this is the exact same type of game. That's not true at all.
But Mario worked in 3D. That's the difference. And I don't know why that Sonic can't. But
I think Sonic did too, but they just tried doing too much. They couldn't stand still with the Sonic franchise because I think GameCube was the first generation of consoles where they ushered in 3D Sonic. And the very first Sonic 3D was kind of cool. I think it wasn't the best, but you could have evolved it. The jet boots and all that stuff, and then they took it to the surfboards and shit like that, and just started getting really weird. But I think there was room to make a 3D tried and true Sonic the Hedgehog, and they just never gave it a chance.
Yeah,
because there were so many failures on the 3D, market already.
Yeah, well. I mean, maybe they are trying to revitalize the game franchise, but to me, I feel like it's over. And I feel like this is more of a transition because nostalgia is such a hot market right now. Everyone is going for nostalgia with everything.
It's all Hollywood has right now.
And yeah, you see Detective Pikachu come out, and you look at that movie and you're like, wait a second. Why are you releasing this movie in the year 2019 instead of the year 1999? I'm very confused, and I feel the same way about the Sonic movie. Why did you wait 30 years to fucking release a Sonic movie from when the first game came out? It just seems baffling, but it's a trend. It is a trend in Hollywood. It's a very interesting trend. And I think what it really says is that the purchasers now, the people that spend money, are people that grew up in the 90s, and people who grew up in the 90s will spend ridiculous amounts of money for stuff that makes them nostalgic, no matter what the quality.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're just that demographic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just getting to that point, but I definitely think you're onto something. And like I said, like whispered in there, that's all Hollywood has, and that's all Hollywood has had for a long time now. But we're the generation up next on the chopping block. That's why you see Detective Pikachu a decade plus down the line, because it's just we're of that age now where if we see a movie about something in our childhood, we'll fucking just go and see it immediately, even if it ends up being schlock. We'll buy, the deluxe edition of the video game that comes out. We don't even like the reviews of it, it's just because it has Pokemon, so it's just like, we grew up playing Pokemon on the Game Boy. I remember when Mom bought me that game on layaway, even though she didn't have the money, you'll never forget that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting. I feel like Hollywood didn't play to nostalgia with previous generations like they do with this generation, with our generation. It just seems like they've come up with this theory, like this is the gen of nostalgia. These are the people that this will work on. And so far it seems like they're right. But in this case, at least Sonic is a good movie, because I don't know about you, I thought Detective Pikachu was pretty crappy. I did not like it very much. If we were to review it on the Crack Cellar, I probably would have given it a Cesar Romero, but we never will review that movie. What do you think about this movie's overall quality compared to the other nostalgia movies that have been coming out recently?
Top notch.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it did not disappoint me, really. I went into this movie thinking I was going to kind of skip parts just so I could say I reviewed it, but I honestly liked the movie. I started, from the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. This is good. I'm going to pop a beer.
Yeah, for sure. It was surprisingly good. I went into it very skeptical, and it flew by. It's like an hour and 30 minutes. It's a very short movie, and it just flies by.
Well. No pun intended.
It had a really surprisingly tight plot, too. Most of these nostalgia movies are very loosely plotted. And this one, it just felt really tight. Like, it felt like a movie that wasn't necessarily a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. It could have just been a fugitive on the run taking a road trip with their new friend to get this thing in this place and escaping this evil guy. Like the way that it goes, it just felt like it was written by someone that writes movies, not just by some dude. Yeah.
Actually cares about the Sonic name,
Yeah.
I think that also is just an element of it being a well-written story. I think there's a Sonic 2 and maybe even a 3 in the person's mind who made this movie.
Yes.
So they've been stewing, they've been camping on this storyline for quite some time. I feel like it's really well constructed.
Yes.
I think when Sonic 2 comes out, you're not going to see any plot holes. And it's a CGI kind of, in my mind, a kids movie, so I don't think there's much room to really make plot holes, because it's not following this grand universe that's been around for so long. But it actually has, but in a weird way, there's just, I don't know, from watching the movie, it doesn't come off like it's going to be one of those movies where it's like, how did they do this? Where in the first movie, they said they do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they wrote at least 2 movies, maybe 3 movies, like you said. It could just have a pre-written trilogy because there is a level of craftsmanship with this script that doesn't seem like it was a first draft that just came out of the pipe like 6 months before the movie was filmed. You know what I mean? It feels like it was polished, very polished. And when you get to the end, it feels like it connects so well the way that they kind of end things with Robotnik and then they introduce Tails. You're just sitting there like, oh, Sonic 2. Like they just like 100% just set up Sonic 2 like perfectly. It's not like they're just saying, oh, maybe we'll do Sonic 2s. It's more like, this is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and guess what? The Two Towers is already filmed, bitches. That's kind of more the vibe I got.
For sure. It also makes the reaction from the director to the internet's reaction make sense.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like, oh shit, I'm going back to the drawing board immediately on how we're doing Sonic. It just really showed you that he did not want his vision of a Sonic movie ruined by what he thought was a good look for Sonic. So he was willing to bend a little bit and make the Sonic everyone else wanted to see. And that's why me and you, we didn't really care about the other Sonic. That's why kind of, when we saw the reaction where I was like, well, why the fuck? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, sure, you could make it a little bit better, but is it that big of a fucking deal?
Yeah.
But it very seriously because he wanted people to enjoy the other part of the movie, which is a well-built storyline, which he wants to turn into what me and you were talking about, a universe. Well, a short universe, maybe. It's hard. That's such a big word nowadays, franchise universes.
Yeah. And I want to talk a lot more about the ending, but let's kind of take a step back to the beginning. I really loved the way they used rings as ring gates and like how they just, like in Sonic the Hedgehog, it was all about the rings. And the second you got hit by something and all your rings flew out in this fractal pattern, it felt like you were stabbed in the chest as a player. Like it was this weird moment in video game history where you getting hit by a single move, you didn't just blink red and lose a heart on your interface. Sonic like gripped in pain and rings flew everywhere and all he did was like mad dash to try to get all the rings back and it was like paramount that you get all those fucking rings back. The way that they portrayed that in this movie,
it was perfect.
It was brilliant. It was clearly done by someone who is a fan and oh yeah, SEGA made the movie. So there is definitely an element of not too many cooks in the kitchen with this movie. There's one cook and the cook is Sammy SEGA and that's good.
Bringing up the rings, I thought the comment, and I don't really want to spoil it, and also I can't remember it perfect verbatim, but when he brings up the ring tech, he makes a comment that really just plays well to any sci-fi fan, and I really chuckled at it. He brought the rings and how it teleported him to any planet he thought of, and he's like, how he said something about how all great technology by aliens or something like that is like ring based or something like that. It just made me chuckle thinking of Stargate and the Expanse. And other things like that. I'm just like, dude, is that? I swear that's what he was trying to do right there.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, and there's a lot of funny in this movie. So this is mostly a comedy movie, and the comedy is interesting. So there's like little elements of comedy that you wouldn't even expect, like Crazy Carl. Crazy Carl is like a character out of an Adam Sandler movie. He's like the town drunk who everyone laughs at, who's like, hey, the blue demon, he comes to my farm and steals my apples, and I almost caught him once. And you know what it's like? It's like Beauty and the Beast, where Gaston is laughing at Belle's dad, who's like the crazy inventor, who's like, there's a beast who abducted my daughter, and they're all just fucking laughing at him. It's like that, and it's a very interesting character when you compare the rest of the tone of the movie, because it feels really out of place. It feels like something that should be in Billy Madison rather than a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And I really loved how when you get about like a third through the movie and the whole road trip part starts, and Cyclops is like, yo, so you've just been, like stalking us for like this whole time? And he's like, well, yeah, but Crazy Carl, he knew I was around. You guys should really call him Carl the Observant. Like, that line made me roll.
That was probably one of the best jokes. I think it was so funny because it's a deep cut on a societal level. It's like making fun of the doomsday preppers, or the tinfoil hat, the conspiracy people. You take these people that just are, as Sonic would put it, far more observant. They look at the details a little bit more than you think they should, and you call them crazy for that. Mm-hmm. It turns out you might want to give them a little bit of credit.
Yeah. And then in the very beginning, another thing I really loved is fucking Sonic the Hedgehog is doing his little stalking rounds where he goes around town stalking people to hang out with them. And he gets to Donut Lord and Pretzel Lady's house, and they put on Speed with Keanu Reeves, and fucking Sonic the Hedgehog is sitting there like, yes, Speed. Keanu Reeves is a national treasure. And I'm just like sitting there like, even Sonic the Hedgehog knows that Keanu Reeves is a national treasure. That's how great Keanu Reeves is.
That brings us to another point. How did they get so many different IPs permission in this movie? There was a lot, and I mean a lot of I don't know what you call them.
Well, I'll tell you why Speed was, because Speed is owned by Paramount Studios, who also published Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how they got Speed. I don't know about the rest, but for Speed,
there's a lot of references.
There is. There is a lot of references, and I loved how the portrayal of Sonic was. It was childlike. They portrayed him as a child, which I'm fine with, and I think that's why you think this is a kid's movie, is because Sonic basically is a kid in this movie.
Well, funny enough is they go out of their way to make sure that Sonic grew up with us, though. Mm-hmm. In the movie's timeline, Sonic started out as a baby when we started playing the video games, and by the time we grew up, he was grown up. That's kind of like when he was watching Speed, he had watched Speed before. That's what that scene was showing, is that he was a fan of the movie Speed and that he'd seen it many times, which means he grew up with us as we were playing the game, which was kind of a weird, cool, meta thing,
It was very meta. And there's a lot of meta references in this movie. And one of the ones I liked the most was the fact that, and it's so slick the way they did this, and that's another reason why I think this script had a lot of drafts and it was very well crafted, because towards the end, they started calling Robotnik Eggman, and as any like hardcore Sonic fan knows, Eggman is what Robotnik was called in the Japanese version of the game. So there's such a deep cut. Like, we're talking a super deep cut reference that they didn't just flippantly mention one time in the movie. I think they called him Eggman like 3 times, right? Towards the end?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so like they basically changed his name towards the end of the movie back to Eggman from Robotnik. And I just thought that was a really great like nod to the hardcore fans that know everything about Sonic.
Well, for sure.
Which are going to be the ones bankrolling this franchise if it's going to be successful.
They're going to be the ones taking their kids to this movie.
Oh yeah, and creating a new generation of Sonic fans.
Exactly, so it's like that's why I say it's a kids movie. It's a movie for us, no doubt. I don't think it being a kid movie takes away in any way from it being a movie for us. It's just it actually is a compliment on how well constructed the script and the movie overall is. That it has that many hints and references and subtleties to our childhood, and also a lens to the better movies coming out of like Pixar and Disney and stuff like that, where they're the best kid, pretty much the best kid movies that come out nowadays. So
yeah, Disney gave up. It's so funny how Disney, they like, as soon as Toy Story 1 came out and Disney's like, oh, Pixar did this for how much money? Wait, what? 3D modeling is like 1/10 the price of hand-drawn art? Oh shit, fuck all this noise. We're just giving this shit to Pixar. And it's like ever since, Disney just gave up. They don't make movies anymore. They just outsource to everyone. They make Pixar movies and Marvel movies. They don't fucking make Disney movies anymore. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's good. I mean, those are two ways of making movies that allow them to make a polished process that increases their revenue stream to the max. Imagine the idea of setting up the MCU franchise. They get to, make movies. They make a movie timeline that's 20 years out, and then they get to sign these deals with actors that are 8 years, 10 years long. It's probably leaves them so much room to make money, because with typical movies, you make one, it's a blockbuster. Then the next movie, actor, you want that actor to come back, shit, you're going to pay him triple, quadruple, whatever the fuck it is, right? Now with MCU, it's like you sign this contract and you're this character for 8 fucking years, whether you're a success or not, bitch.
Yeah. It's really interesting what Disney's done with like reshaping what a kid's movie is. It's funny because when I was a kid, I would have killed for what the MCU became in the 2010s. It's amazing what happened with, like, starting with the original Iron Man and going all the way up to Infinity War. What happened with comic book movies was unprecedented and cataclysmic. And in my time, when I was reading X-Men comics and watching X-Men on cartoons in the 90s, I would have never dreamed we would have got anything like that, and I would have fucking loved it. And it's amazing that Disney had the foresight to kind of be like, wait a second, we're going about this all wrong. Marvel's already making the kids' movies. We just haven't ported them to film yet.
I mean, it was just a revenue stream waiting to be taken advantage of.
Yes, it was.
I mean, in hindsight, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what Hollywood does.
It is. What do you
definitely
think?
Making original content nowadays.
Yeah. So what do you think about the voice actor for Sonic the Hedgehog? Did you like him?
I thought he was good.
I liked him. I thought he was good. But the entire movie, all I could think of was that what a missed opportunity to not cast Pauly Shore as Sonic. Wouldn't he have been an amazing Sonic the Hedgehog? Can't you just think of Encino Man, fucking, what is the movie where he plays a farmer? He goes back from college with the girl to the farmland.
Oh.
God, what is that movie called? Whatever. Just think of every Pauly Shore movie from the 90s. Think about how he acts, and then think about Sonic. Like, think about all of Sonic's lines, and just imagine Pauly Shore doing them. Wouldn't it have been perfect?
I'm a big Pauly Shore fan. I think he deserves another chance. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I think he should have been Sonic's voice actor.
I hope they at least gave him an audition. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he didn't do it good and they just passed him with someone else, but like, how can you not give Pauly Shore an audition? Like, I feel like his voice was made for Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, definitely after watching the movie, it's like just the style of where they were trying to bring Sonic, it would have made sense. Pauly Shore definitely fits, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. But, all right, so quickly, the beginning of this movie, we talked about, you start on Green Hills Zone and on Alien Planet, Baby Sonic's attacked with Al by the Knuckles people and sent to Earth, and, he grows up, and, man, it starts off with this cool-ass song from the 80s/90s, when they first introduce you slightly grown-up Sonic on Earth. And I'm thinking, okay, cool, this is going to be like Guardians of the Galaxy with a really cool 80s, 90s soundtrack. No. That was the only song like that. The rest of the movie, they just used garbage music. The soundtrack was such a disappointment. It was probably the biggest disappointment of this entire movie was the soundtrack. What do you think? Like, when I look at this, I think, why didn't you just take the actual Sonic the Hedgehog music and use that?
Yeah. I mean, I only really paid attention to two songs. I mean, two songs really only stood out to me, I should say. And that was the Queen song at the beginning, which I thought was a perfect fit. I was like, man, in hindsight, I was like, this song was made for Sonic the Hedgehog. And then the second one was the one that Dr. Robotnik danced to inside of his van when he made the breakthrough with Sonic's electricity. And I mean, it really wasn't my cup of tea as far as the music was, but I was paying attention to the lyrics, and most importantly, just the beat of the music. And I thought it was a remix of original Sonic music. There
was a remix of original. They did a remix of the Green Hills Zone theme, but it was on piano, and it was in a different scene.
Okay.
But yeah, what you're talking about was not Sonic music, and
I heard the beat and I was like, "Is this a remix of a Sonic beat?"
But it felt like such a missed opportunity because, I mean, here's the thing: I get it. A lot of people think Michael Jackson was a kid diddler, and people don't like Michael Jackson anymore. But here's the goddamn truth: Michael Jackson did the soundtrack to Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has some of the best Sonic music of all time, period. MJ did that soundtrack, and it was fucking amazing. And Michael Jackson is one of the biggest Sonic the Hedgehog fans in the history of the planet. He had like an entire room of his like mansion that was just Sonic themed, with every Sonic game in arcade cabinets custom made. Like, he had like your dream. Like, he literally had it, and maybe he used it to diddle kids. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, okay? But what I'm saying is,
Crack Cellar, we don't confirm.
we don't, yeah.
Case.
Yeah, we don't confirm or deny. But what I'm going to say is, hey, why don't you throw a Michael Jackson song in there? I mean, he's the biggest fan. He's the biggest artist, and he loves Sonic. It's just like, but instead you're putting in like this weird generic rap song in that bar fight scene. And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
That bar scene seems so out of place too. It seemed weird, especially after the speed scene and shit. I was like, did you guys really just use the scene as like a showcase to make a popular example of it? It reminded me. It seemed like they were really trying hard to do like the Quicksilver speed scene or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? That just seemed really out of place. Like you set that bar story up just to do that scene.
Definitely. It was the only scene in the movie that I would have straight up cut out. And that being said, I really liked a part of it, is a very brief part where the bar junkies come up to Sonic and Cyclops, Donut Lord, and say, "We don't like you around here." And then Donut Lord says some quirky remark. I forget exactly what he says back to him. And they respond like, "No, hipsters. And then this is probably the best acting the voice actor of Sonic did the entire movie. Sonic just looks at him and says, "How dare you?" Just like the most genuine way possible. And I love that part of it. But everything else was super cringy. Like the beginning of it with like the Mexican garb that he was using as a disguise was just really kind of dumb. And then like his explanation of the bartender, like, "Oh, he has a skin condition that makes him 43. Give us a mellow yellow." I was like, what the fuck was that? That was the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And then when they finally get into the bar fight, that slow-mo shit, that's a cop-out. And I'm going to call the movie out on that. So I like this movie, but they definitely cut some corners, and this one scene is one of them. So instead of doing super fast Sonic stuff, which you would expect from a Sonic movie, instead they slow time down so that Sonic can act in normal time where everyone else is frozen in place. Okay, I like bullet time as much as the next Matrix fan, but I don't want it in my Sonic the Hedgehog game. I want speed. And they just decided we can't do speed. It's too hard. And we're going to use this cop-out measure. And not only that, they used the slowdown mechanic several times in this movie. And it got increasingly cringe as it went on.
Yeah, I think it's just cheaper and it's not as jarring to the non-critically observant. You know,
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that will watch those scenes and just love the detail of how fast they could break it down. But the majority of people are just going to be like, "Oh, whatever." They'll just discount that, and it just won't be worth the budget they had to throw at it to make that cool. You know, whereas the scene that's slow mo, people observe it a lot more, and the mass. I mean, maybe I'm talking on my ass, but I think that's just kind of where the rationale for that type of shit is. But most importantly, what was up with Mellow Yellow?
Yeah, they must have paid. They must have paid.
Yeah, dude, I forgot about Mellow Yellow as a fucking soda, and for some odd reason, Sonic just loves it. Sonic's not yellow. I didn't ever think that Sonic drank soda, and if he did, that Mellow Yellow, a citrus beverage, would be his choice. Like, what the fuck is going on there?
I think it's supposed to be ironic because Sonic is like the opposite of mellow. I think that's what they were going for, but either way, it was dumb.
That could be it because they made that joke where he's just like, "Yeah, totally, I'll just relax."
Yeah, and I think the best parts of this movie were like the buddy cop parts. You know, they're not. I mean, one of them's a cop, but Sonic's not a cop. But this sort of was a buddy cop movie in a lot of ways. And the part where one that sticks out right after the bar fight thing, they go to a hotel and Donut Lord's like, "Yo, I'm going to fall asleep watching TV. You should do the same, Sonic." And Sonic's like, but, this is my last day on Earth. I just want to have fun. And Cyclops is like, "All right, dog, whatever you can do in this room, go ahead and do it. I'm out." And then it like does this. This is what I think the whole movie should have done. And this is my criticism. Instead of doing slow-mo, they do super speed. And you just see Sonic zooming around the room doing all this shit. And then he just eventually ends up on the bed in a bathrobe after he brushed his teeth. Like, that was fun. That is what I love about this movie, like those moments. And I wish there was a few more of them.
Yeah, for sure. I think they were just doing their best with trying to like manage those scenes. Because I mean, I'm sure there'd be plenty of people complaining that they did too much of that. You know?
Man, who would come? I don't know. I guess maybe, but I feel like the people that would complain about that are not the core demographic you're going after.
Yeah, I mean that just kind of speaks to how well it was constructed. You know, it was very well balanced with the people that are going to go to see that movie because they grew up with the name, and then, you know, just maybe those same people bringing their kids to see it, even though Sonic hasn't been relevant for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so at this point is like when they start to like say, "Oh, hey, Donut Lord, you're a terrorist and you're being hunted by the USA," as they're approaching San Francisco. And eventually they get to San Francisco and they get to the skyscraper that Sonic lost his rings on. And they get to the top and he got him and everything was cool. And I'm just sitting here like, that seemed a little too easy. And of course, Dr. Robotnik shows up 2 seconds later. And this is the next scene they use the slow-mo on. And again, I wanted to see the scene with super speed, not with slow-mo. It just cheapened it. I I just don't want to see Sonic going slow. That's not what I want from Sonic. But the scene was saved by Jim Carrey because every goddamn line he utters in this movie is gold. And
he did not have a bad scene.
No, he really didn't. And from here you go through like the Sonic versus Robotnik city fight. I mean, there's this like very dramatic scene where Sonic pushes Donut Lord and Pretzel Lady off of the ceiling, off the roof, and they're falling, and he's fighting Robotnik, and then he gets rid of all the drones, and he goes down to save them at the last second, and he teleports them back to the Green Hills, Montana, which I kind of liked. It was like this weird meta moment of a movie where it's like, yeah, you spent this entire movie traveling to get to San Francisco, and then in a split second, you're back to where you started. I like that type of shit. So that was cool.
It was pretty meta.
It was. It was.
Lives, bitch.
And then Sonic leads like a high-speed chase through San Francisco with Dr. Robotnik, and that was all really cool. One thing I want to ask is, what in the fuck was up with Pretzel Lady's sister? Why was she such a cunt to Cyclops?
It seemed super odd. That was part of the movies where it didn't. I don't want to say it didn't make sense, but it almost seemed like there was a part of the movie they totally cut out, and it made her character not make sense, and they didn't pick up on it. Mm-hmm. Like there must have been a scene they shot where like it made that character not like, Tom Wachowski or whatever, the cop, but they didn't add that in the final cut. And it just like that character seamlessly just fucking hated that character's guts for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was very weird and jarring. And like the way that like the Pretzel Lady kind of like played it off like on the phone with Cyclops. She's like, well, no, but she did tell me to check your phone for dating apps. And like you see the sister in the background like doing like her angry black woman face over it. It's just like, bitch, show me where he hurt you. Like, where did he touch you? Like, what's going on here? She fucking hated his guts, like to the point where at one point later on, or no, it was right after she hung up with so right after Pretzel Lady hangs up with Donut Lord, she turns around looks towards her sister, and the sister goes, divorce, divorce.
Yeah,
and I'm just like,
why?
What is going on here?
What did that scene do? There's nothing in that scene that made me think that was the measure that needed to be taken.
Yeah, that was a weird fucking character. And another weird character was the soy boy police chief from Green Hills. What the fuck was up with that guy? Like, was he supposed to be stereotypical gay, or was he supposed to be stereotypical, like, latte drinking beta orbiter, or was he supposed to be mocking both of them?
I took him as, like, the typical Barney stereotype, Like, he's just supposed to be the dumb cop side, like, deputy that follows around the main police chief that has the whole town under his control, But
he was the police chief. That's what made it weird to me.
Oh, are you talking about the character that actually bonded with Sonic, or are you talking about the deputy at the station?
No, he's not the deputy, is he? I thought he was the chief and Donut Lord's the deputy.
No.
Did I get that reversed?
Yeah, you totally got that backwards.
Oh, shit. Okay, that makes so much more sense now. That's so weird. I totally thought that the guy who was the soy boy was the leader. That Cyclops was the deputy. So you're saying it was the other way around.
For sure.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense then. I was really confused by that whole thing. I thought it was supposed to be like a parody because like the deputy was calling him as a terrorist on the cell phone or on the payphone, like, calm down, bro. It's all good. It was really funny, but I guess that was all created in my mind. So, okay, so he's not as odd as I thought he was. But I will say that it was a very nice ending to this movie. So, like, where we're at right now is basically the end of the movie. And eventually we get back to Green Hills. Sonic is back in Green Hills. Everyone's back in Green Hills. And Dr. Robotnik shows up in his drone, like, TAC fighter thing.
Powered by Sonic's energy.
Yes, powered by the feather of the Sonic's feather that
Quill.
That Donut Lord found at the beginning of the movie. This was probably my favorite scene of the entire movie. And the reason I say that is because A, it's the final boss fight, and I always enjoy the final boss fight of everything I view or play. But because this was the most faithful part of this entire movie's portrayal of Sonic the Hedgehog. So they get into this boss fight. Sonic the Hedgehog charges his, like, superpower, but this time he controls it. And he goes after Robotnik as a spinning Sonic, bouncing like a pinball machine off of Robotnik, back off of a building, back onto Robotnik, back off of a power pole, back onto Robotnik, exactly as he would in the video game. And this made me smile. This whole scene, I was just like, this is what I wanted. If you told my kid self, hey, we want to make a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, I would have said, okay, tell me what's going on. Well, Dr. Robotnik is Jim Carrey. Sonic the Hedgehog is super advanced CG, unlike anything you've ever seen. And this is how it's going to go. And they showed me that scene. I probably would have died of a heart attack as a 12-year-old child watching that shit. It was fucking awesome.
For sure. The only thing that was missing was freeing the small animals at the end.
Yes.
Like, I thought that, but honestly, after seeing the way number 2 is going to be set up, I'm pretty sure that's where they're going. I think by the time they get to the Mushroom Planet, he's going to enslave all the animals on that planet. I really think that's where they're going, and it's just awesome to think about that. How accurately it's going to be.
Yeah. So let's talk ending now. So what happens is that Sonic wins, of course, and sends Robotnik into the ring to the Mushroom Planet he didn't want to go into the whole time, which was great. That's such a great writing technique. Like, the place the main character was dreading going the whole movie, he ends up sending his worst enemy to instead. Perfect. Now, this is where it gets really good. Robotnik gets there, and he just takes it totally in stride. Most people would be panicking, having a heart attack, like, I've been sent to an alien world with no infrastructure, no people, no food, I'm just fucked. People would be having a heart attack. Robotnik is like, nah, bro, I'm going to shave my head, become Eggman, and be like, I'll be back on Earth in 6 months. Slow pan out of the mushroom world. That was so Robotnik, and the acting from Jim Carrey was so good, as usual.
Dude,
all of his acting was great.
That was his best scene, dude.
It probably was.
It just cut to it. He's just... Dude, that was fucking hilarious. He's like, what do you say, Agent Stone? Actually...
Yeah.
Why don't you go do some reconnaissance?
That was so good.
I was dying, dude.
Yeah, it was like a weird Castaway reference.
It
but
was,
not. But it was at the same time. It was so good. And so that's the initial thing that sets up Sonic 2. So at this point, you're like, okay, there is 100% of Sonic 2. For one thing, you are sending Jim Carrey to an alien planet promising revenge. That means you have Jim Carrey under contract. And if you have Jim Carrey under contract, this movie is being made. This sequel is being made. So at that point, I'm already convinced that the sequel is being made. And so we leave and we go back to Earth, and, Donut Lord and Pretzel Lady's like, hey, Sonic, you can live with us instead. And, they open the attic to their house, and Sonic goes up and he sees all this stuff from his cave set up in the attic of Pretzel Lady and Donut Lord. And it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's a cool ending. We had Robotnik, and that was really cool. We have like the feel good part with Sonic. That's really cool. And that's basically the end of the movie. And you're convinced that there's a sequel coming, right? You get through the initial credit sequence, and then you have a post-credit scene. And Tails shows up. And Nicholas, please tell me, what is the key difference between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, the video game?
The characters.
Yes!
I mean, it's literally in the title. Sonic the Hedgehog, and then Sonic and Tails.
Yes! Tails is in Sonic 2. Tails is in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And they immediately say, oh, guess what? Tails is here. If you needed any more proof Sonic 2 is happening and that this movie was basically being built by people that know the original game trilogy like the back of their hand,
For sure.
Exhibit A and Exhibit B right here.
And it would make total sense, too, because if Tails comes in to like pretty much notify Sonic that Dr. Robotnik is up to some shit on the Mushroom Planet, totally sets up Sonic and Tails, Sonic the Hedgehog number 2, and then I can easily see that movie progressing into them going back to their original planet where Sonic Baby and the Owl were, to pretty much introduce Knuckles, because the third game is Sonic and Knuckles.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles are different.
Oh, they are?
Yes, they are. But I know what you're saying. I think that basically they're going to wrap Sonic and Knuckles in through the trilogy. That's my guess.
Okay.
So I think that instead of doing Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic 4, they're going to do 1, 2, and 3 and just kind of wrap 4, which is Sonic and Knuckles, into the first 3.
I didn't realize Sonic and Knuckles was a standalone.
It was, and Sonic and Knuckles was really interesting because it was like a Game Genie cartridge where you could plug in Sonic 1, Sonic 2, or Sonic 3 into the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge in the SEGA, and it changed how Sonic and Knuckles played. It was a different game depending on which other game you put into Sonic and Knuckles. It was very revolutionary for its time, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really fucking cool. And I believe that we're not going to see Knuckles in Sonic 2, but I do believe we're going to see him in Sonic 3. I think the villain of Sonic 2 is going to be Robotnik still. Well, Eggman is going to be Eggman. And Sonic 3, I believe the villain will be Knuckles.
Or Shadow Sonic.
I'm not sure if Shadow is going to...
He's going to make the trilogy cut.
I don't think
might be too far in.
Yeah, I don't think so, but it's possible. You know, this is all speculation, but if I were to guess, I'm going to say it's going to stick with Robotnik next movie and then go to Knuckles for the final movie. And then, you know, maybe if the trilogy just performs like gangbusters, they'll go past that and maybe you'll get Shadow or something like that. But that's probably where it'll jump the shark and, you know, they'll stop making them, most likely.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog, the film?
You know, keep this shit up. That's all I can say. You know, if they could bring in some other movies based on old IPs, dude, like, how cool would it be to see, like, a Ninja Gaiden movie? How cool would it be to see, like, a Contra movie or if let's see, what else can we come up with? A Brave Fencer Musashi movie, God forbid. You know, like, I'm still holding my breath.
Listen, Mega Man Command Mission movie. That's all I want. Ayo!
Yeah, dude. Honestly, when they called Dr. Robotnik Eggman, my mind immediately jumped to Rockman. I was just like, man, how cool would it be if I was watching a Mega Man movie right now and they referenced Rockman? Yeah. You know?
And you're right. I think that the Sonic the Hedgehog movie does open the door for other video game movies because this movie proved that in the year 2020, on a small budget, you can make a very good video game movie.
Yeah. Well, I think it just goes to show you that CGI can save the hokiness. Like, video game movies were plagued by this weird live action hokiness where they didn't really have the technology to fill in what humans couldn't do in a video game world, you know, but nowadays Sonic really showcased that. You know, you can have a full CGI hedgehog based on some ridiculous shit, totally interact with a real human storyline, you know, whereas you look at other video game movies like, you know, Blood Rain and stuff like that. It's just like, God, my fucking God.
Yeah.
So it really gives me hope that this is an example of how to do it. You know, don't just like think a video game movie has to be the serious, clear cut, you know, hero or anti-hero movie. It can be slightly comedic. It can be CGI. It can be hokey. It can be whatever you want. You know, it doesn't have. And things like Mega Man, like, I think that's that's kind of the mentality that stops movies like a Mega Man movie from ever happening. Because they're like, how do you make a fucking android that shoots blasts out of its right arm and is based off a doctor named Dr. Light and blah blah blah. You could keep on talking about the video game and it would just further the point of how you wouldn't make it into a movie, right? Yeah. But Sonic, oddly enough, showcases how that could actually happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so. Well, I'll tell you right now, they did make a Mega Man movie, and it's called RoboCop. Too real. Stay
tuned on the Crack Cellar. We will be reviewing the new director's cut that's coming out.
All right. Well, Broadcaster Nickels, as you know, on the Crack Cellar, we use the official, patented Joker rating system. On this system, what do you rate Sonic the Hedgehog, the film?
I give it 5 coronaviruses out of 5. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna reluctantly. Sometimes I wish our review system was overhauled, but I'm gonna reluctantly give it.
Criticism of the podcast can be reserved for off-air activities, Broadcaster Nickels.
I'm gonna reluctantly give it a Joaquin because I think it deserves the top. I think it's a solidly good movie, and saying it was an A and not the best rank we could give it is kind of just not fair. But at the same time, I don't think it's this groundbreaking movie that everyone should go see, So I don't know. For what it was the best it could be.
Well, no, it's for you. It's an S rank.
Yeah.
It's a joking for you because you're a Sonic fan. For a non-Sonic fan, it's not gonna be.
It's not the. It's really not gonna be.
Yeah, no, totally. And on a similar note, I'm gonna give it a Jack. I'm gonna give it a simple Jack because it's a great movie. I think they could have done a little better. There were some things about it that I thought they fucked up. The bar scene's one of them. There's several little spots where I think they could have done better. But overall, I think this is one of the greatest video game movies of all time. It's in the top 5 for sure.
For sure.
For me, it's so weird when you compare video game movies because some video game movies I love because of how ridiculous they are, like Street Fighter. I fucking love the Street Fighter movie mainly because how fucking ridiculous it is and Raul Julia's portrayal of fucking M. Bison with Bison Bucks and all these things. I'm just I fucking love that movie, but most people would look at it and say, that's a fucking Jared Leto, bro. What are you talking about? And I'm like, fuck you. That's a goddamn Joaquin Phoenix to me. You know what I mean?
There's nothing more inherently villainous than a villain talking about the value of his own monetary currency. His face is on the bills.
So I'm gonna give this a Jack Nicholson. And with that, we will close out.